Episode 164. What are 4 core skills that a dog needs to know to be good for grooming? Find out this week. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Neumeier-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a grooming instructor at Whole Pet Grooming Academy, where I also teach my online program, Master Groomer Behavior Specialist, and I'm the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. If we break grooming down into its smallest pieces, if we really think about what it is that dogs have trouble with, there are 4 skill sets that we can work on. Of course, there are other ways to break this down, but this is the 4 I'm going to talk about today. Now, the first of those skill sets is your dog must be comfortable with being touched all over. All over, every place, every little teeny tiny nook and cranny. There is no place on your dog that is taboo. You must touch your dog everywhere. So as groomers, we're going to touch a dog everywhere. But as owners, as other dog professionals, I think it's important for us all to be on the same page that this is an important skill for a dog, not just for grooming, but for other types of care too. You want to be able to wipe your dog down when they come in from the rain. You want to be able to give them an emergency bath if they get skunked. You want to be able to check them for a wound if you are worried, if you find a bloody footprint on the floor. You want to be able to check them all over. There are lots of reasons why you should be able to touch your dog all over, everywhere. Another example, to just check them for ticks. Like, oh, I feel a little bump. What is that? You need your dog to be able to allow you to do it. So touching all over starts off with whatever an individual dog is comfortable with. And this is stuff that owners should be doing at home. And this is instructions we can give them to do at home. Help this dog be comfortable with the kind of touching all over. Now that could be laying on the couch with you while you're watching a movie and just touching them everywhere. That could be just laying down, the easiest version, just touching them everywhere while they're comfortable. Now, we increase difficulty level as a dog is comfortable. And again, I'm going to say calm, comfortable, cooperative. We want the dogs to feel comfortable with this. This is not going to be very exciting to watch. That's the hard part, I think, too, with dog training videos for cooperative care. Is that unless you know that the dog used to find it challenging, it's really pretty boring to watch a dog be totally comfortable with something. Unless you're a behavior geek, in which case we're like, wow, that's exciting. But you don't want excitement. You don't want drama. You want a dog who's totally chill, who's like, yeah, cool, touch me. Okay, whatever. That's a little weird, but I'm all right. And then add difficulty level. Now, what kind of difficulty might you add next? That could be that you start asking them to let you touch them all over while they're standing. So now you're asking them to be in a position, or you're asking them, not just touching them all over, but moving their legs around and moving their tail around and moving their ears around and like really repositioning them while you touch them. Because groomers are going to do that. Groomers are going to run a dog through their entire range of motion during the grooming process. This is what we do. So if a dog is having some trouble in the grooming shop, this is some basic stuff we can backtrack to. Now, I know a lot of owners start off with, I'm going to massage his feet. And I don't want to throw shade at the idea of massaging a dog's feet. However, we can't stop there. That is so very, very basic, and it does not translate to what groomers do. A foot massage is not a nail trim. That's very different. So that could be a good starting point, and then we build on it. Things like touching toes, touching individual toes, getting near the claw, touching the dew claw, moving them around, maybe holding on a little bit tighter, maybe just touching around the elbow, around the rib cage, moving around their tail. We need to move through a whole bunch of types of touching and with a dog who's comfortable with it. Now, your next difficulty level is probably going to be standing while I'm moving your legs around and touching you all over. Think about these as raising the difficulty only if your dog is ready. Be patient. Your dog will be ready for it. Just help them through it. You're on the team with the dog. So we want the dog to be comfortable with it. Now, what is the next core concept, the next skill set that I think every dog is going to need for grooming, and that's being touched all over with stuff and things. Now, stuff and things takes it to a different difficulty level. We're still doing touching all over. Now we're doing it with random stuff. And I start my owners off with what I call my coffee table game. Don't worry about it being grooming equipment. If you spend a week working on just the random stuff and things, grooming equipment will come later. But start off with stuff on the coffee table. And for a couple of reasons. I don't want you to think about what you're doing with the hair as much as how the dog feels about being touched with the item. And it's not a dog toy. I don't want them to be looking at our grooming equipment like, can I play with it? Can I put it in my mouth? Do I eat treats off of it? Because that's not going to be really helpful for what they actually need to do in a grooming setting. So I want you to pick up things like a coaster and run it all over them, a bottle of water, run it all over them, touch them with their tails, touch their feet, a pen, a jar candle, get that tissue box and rub underneath their ears. Make it so normal for them to be touched all over with weird stuff and things. Because at the end of the day, a lot of our grooming equipment is just weird stuff and things. I mean, that's what it is. So if we think about making them feel comfortable with all of this touching with items, then it's going to translate to items that the owner does not own. It'll translate to, oh, well, that doesn't seem so weird. So if your vet brings out a stethoscope, that's not going to be the weirdest thing your dog's ever seen. They're kind of used to being touched with novel items. So a stethoscope, not a big deal. Bandage scissors, not a big deal. You know, if your pet sitter decides they want to try putting a harness on their dog one day and your dog isn't used to it, not a big deal, because they're used to being touched all over with weird, random stuff and things. And then as you increase difficulty, that can turn into, now we're standing, being moved around while we're touching you with random stuff and things. But the random stuff and things start off with things that are easy, that don't really make a noise. But we move up. We build some difficulty. When your dog is comfortable, it should be as interesting as watching paint dry. They should not be responding to this. They should just be like, whatever. Okay, I guess we watch movies and touch me with tissue boxes. Whatever. And let's have fun with their dog and just kind of touch them all over. Really casual. Now, I think the next difficulty level would be when I hear a lot of groomers say, oh, and to get them used to clipper vibration and clipper sounds, you can use an electric toothbrush. Buy one of those little battery-operated electric toothbrushes, really cheap one, and use that. Now, I caution you, if that's a piece of advice that you have given or that you have heard, before you do that, keep in mind the purpose is for the dog to be comfortable with it. So first, I would touch them with an item that's not on. Touch them with the novel item before you turn it on. Then you start turning it on. Hey, what do you think about this weird sound? What do you think that it makes a little bit of a vibration? How do you feel about that? You seem okay? Great. Then I can move it around on you. The problem I see is a lot of owners go home and think that, well, they told me I need to start rubbing you all over with this thing and getting you used to it. And then they get in there and they're like, no, you be good. You're going to be good for the groomer next time. You be good. I've got this electric toothbrush. We're going to touch you all over with it. And accidentally teach the dog to hate it. and it seems so obvious if I word it that way, but it's not obvious. It's not obvious to our owners. It's not obvious to other dog pros, really. We need to remember that the purpose is for the dog to feel comfortable with it, not just to not fight back with something that they think is uncomfortable. There's a different goal set there. Those things are very, very different. So if we're going to be touching them all over with stuff and things and having them be calm, comfortable, and cooperative about it and building up difficulty levels, we want them to be comfortable. We want them to be like, oh, neat. So that thing makes a weird buzzing sound. Okay. And keep in mind that that may not be the same kind of sound that clippers are going to make. I have clippers that they all sound different. Every pair of clippers has slightly different sound. Those 5-in-1 blade trimmers, the regular clippers that are your real workhorse go all day kind of clippers, those make a different sound. Dremels make different sounds. There are lots of different sounds. Dryers, all of our dryers make a different sound. The vacuum cleaners, everything makes a different sound. So if we have them around some of those sounds, that is part of helping them be comfortable with the stuff and things. So we're going to lump sounds and items that make sound in our stuff and things category. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. Now, the next category, and these categories can be done separately, they can be done together, but kind of keep in mind, touching all over is the first step toward any of the rest of them. Now, the others we can add as we need to. But this next category is doing it while standing on something or in something. Now, that seems really vague, doesn't it? But we're working up toward standing on a table, standing in a tub, being in a crate, maybe walking on a ramp or a staircase to get into a tub. There are lots of things for being in and on, and getting your dog used to that, because I think a lot of dogs don't do an awful lot of that. I mean, on the sofa is a little bit different. It's squishy and it's up against a wall and they don't feel like they're going to fall off of it. That's different than being on top of a table. So if we're getting them used to being in things and on things, we also need to step back and think about the difficulty level. Make it easy. Maybe it's a matter of having them stand on a step on the deck while you're below them, touching them all over with stuff and things, kind of using it almost like it's a grooming table. Maybe it's a matter of being on the back stairs or on a kitchen chair. A kitchen chair can be a great choice to get your dog to stand up on a kitchen chair, or two kitchen chairs together and having them stand on that. And then you can work on, now I'm going to touch you all over with some stuff and things, and we're going to play a grooming shop and vet visit. These things are all also part of vet visits. So if we get them used to, like, oh, I'm pretty comfortable being up on something high. Now, some things that can happen, I think some dogs slip around a little bit, and you can use something as simple as a yoga mat to just help them feel a little bit more secure. I really like paw mats. So groomers, if you use yoga mats get destroyed really quickly and they are not really easy to clean and disinfect, but the paw mat is. The paw mat was designed to be cleaned like the rest of your equipment. It doesn't start to absorb things like a sponge like the yoga mats do. I want you to think about, if they're on something, we want to keep them from slipping around. So that could be a yoga mat. That could be something really, really simple. That could be a rubber mat. That could be a piece of rug. But the purpose is for them to be comfortable standing up on something. And a lot of our large dogs, especially like the Great Pyrenees and the Newfoundlands, they aren't used to being up on something. Now, another option is when you take them for a walk, see if you can find a park bench to have them climb up on. Get them used to being boosted up, a little bit of help getting up there, standing on a thing, touching them all over with, maybe your water bottle or your roll of bags, but just catching them all over with some stuff, a twig, an acorn. But having them stand up on something and touching them all over. I think we tend to overthink it. And I think when we break it down into its smallest components, like, oh, right, that would directly relate to being touched all over with stuff and things on a grooming table. If I'm standing in a park on a park bench and someone's touching me all over with stuff and I'm up high, we need to think about how we can help a dog be better prepared for the grooming process. Now, the next one, because I said there were four skill sets. This next one is doing those kind of things in a distracting environment. Don't just lump this on at the end. Distracting environments are great places to train anything. So that's something that average pet owners should be working on anyway. There should be some exercises that they're doing just being around distractions so that your dog listens to you when things are distracting. But a grooming setting is going to be very distracting. Even if there aren't other dogs nearby, there's this groomer who isn't family, somebody new, or maybe somebody they kind of know. And sometimes that's really exciting and sometimes that's a little bit scary, but it's still a distraction. There's sights and sounds and smells. So getting your dog into distracting environments can be really, really helpful. If you are working at home, on your dog and helping them feel good about, let's say you're still at the stage where you're just touching them all over. You're on the couch and you're just touching them all over. You're not worrying about stuff and things yet. You can still be building on some distraction level just with the average distractions in your house. You're here with me and we're going to work on touching you all over, even though the other dog is playing ball in the other side of the room. And that's a huge distraction level. For a lot of dogs, like, what? I have to have some control of my own impulses and be over here doing something that isn't as interesting as playing ball, which is what that other dog is doing. Or perhaps it's the kids having fun. Or, maybe you just come up with your own distractions and you've got like loud music playing. Think about distraction levels as difficulty at each of these stages, because generally, the calmer we can keep a dog when things are distracting, the better we can manage them. So these are 4 groupings and 4 skill sets that I think most dogs would really, really benefit from. Doing some extra training at home, and it will help them not just with grooming, but with vet visits and with being cared for at home if there's a medical emergency or if they get really dirty. But your dog should be comfortable with the first one, being touched all over. Everywhere, every which way, moved around, touched all over. Then the second one, being touched all over with stuff and things, random items. And then the third one, doing all of that while standing on a surface, whether that be a table or standing in a tub or standing in a crate and being moved around and having experiences with being on these other surfaces. And then the fourth one, in a distracting environment. So if we're sending owners home with some stuff to work on, this is the kind of stuff that they can do. This is the kind of stuff I want trainers to know about. It's beyond just massaging his feet. Massaging a dog's feet is really just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg, for us to help them feel good about grooming. So if we get trainers on board, then we can also help this dog feel like, oh, this is all normal. And then when they get into a grooming setting and have someone's random tools, because all of us have tools that are different, we all have different tools. So that whole random stuff and things is going to come into play. Like, oh, what's that item? Oh, what's that one? What's that one? I can tell you every pair of clippers sounds slightly different. Every dryer sounds slightly different. And all groomers have their own separate set of equipment. So we all have different brands that we like, different sounds, different nail grinders sound different. So if we're getting them used to a variety of stuff and things, that dog is so well prepared for coming in and seeing a different variety of stuff and things up on surfaces in a distracting environment while being touched all over. And then the groomer has more to work with, because there'll still be things that are really unique to grooming, but the groomer will have more to work with. Your dog is going to be better prepared for the whole process. If you'd like more information, you can find me at Chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you.